Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on King 5 Plus. I'm Joyce Taylor. In just 1 hour, we are expecting an update from the Chelan County Sheriff on the case of Travis Decker. He is the 32-year-old father charged, as you know, with killing his 3 young girls during a visitation back in June. 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, 5-year-old Olivia. This case launched a nationwide manhunt that involved local authorities, federal authorities. We are expecting today confirmation in about an hour that the remains found near Leavenworth just last week, a week ago today in fact, are those of Travis Decker. The Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison told King 5 that he expects to have DNA confirmation today. As you know, this case has been ongoing since June of this year. Greg Copeland breaking down for us how we got here.
This case started back on Friday, May 30th. Travis Decker had a scheduled visitation with Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, which was part of the parenting plan he had with the girls' mother. The next day when the girls didn't return, she called authorities, and an endangered missing person alert was sent out. On Monday, June 2nd, the Chelan County Sheriff's Office found Decker's truck near the Rock Island campground about 17 miles west of Leavenworth, and the girls' bodies were found nearby. A massive manhunt was then launched. Because of his survival skills, authorities believed he could live in the woods for months. Just days later, on June 10th, hikers reported seeing a man who looked like Decker near Kolchuk Lake. Soon after that, hiking trails were closed. People were asked to check their cabins, and the National Guard joined the search along with other national agencies. Tips came in from across the country of possible sightings, including one on July 5th in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest. That ended up being a hiker who looked like Decker. At the end of July, the Chelan County Sheriff had to scale back on that search because of the rising costs. The remains believed to be Decker were found near where the girls were found more than 4 months ago.
The U.S. Marshals Service has declared Travis Decker dead, but the Chelan County Sheriff says not so fast. King 5's Maddie White sat down with the sheriff, who is fielding calls and emails after federal partners made it sound like it was all a done deal.
I would love to come out as the sheriff for our county and say this case has been concluded, Mr. Decker's been located. But we're just not at that point yet.
Investigators finally got a break last week.
Just the geographical location certainly put a high probability that this was Mr. Decker.
They say they found what is probably the body of Travis Decker.
We recognize that the clothing we found, the personal items, were consistent with images that we had collected of Mr. Decker before.
It's why the U.S. Marshals Service submitted a motion to wind down their search, writing to the court, defendant Travis Caleb Decker is deceased.
And I understand the kind of message that this sends. Somehow as a group that we've come to the determination that Mr. Decker is deceased.
But Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison says that's not been proven.
I know our community, just like us, wants this kind of closure. We're there, but I will not say it unless I'm 100% positive that I can look my citizens in the eye and say, you have nothing else to fear. This case is closed.
Those DNA results are expected very soon.
We're very thankful for the U.S. Marshals Service.
The more boots on the ground, the better when it comes to searching the woods for an accused killer. But when it comes to managing public information,
they were not making a determination that he was officially deceased.
Maybe there's such a thing.
I don't believe there was anything intentional on their part, too, to cause confusion.
As too many cooks in the kitchen.
This was an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people, and hopefully we can say the ride's coming to an end.
And again, we expect to get that confirmation in the next hour. The King 5 investigators have obtained body cam video of a police officer talking to Travis Decker after he slammed into a car at a red light in Wenatchee. The video taken just days before he was accused of murdering his 3 girls and then taking off into the woods. Here's King 5's Chris Daniels with this exclusive.
What's going on, guys?
How Travis Decker looks, acts, speaks.
Everybody was rolling and everything was going, and all of a sudden I hit him.
It's all here on a Wenatchee police body cam video recorded on May 27th.
I wasn't on the accelerator. I was still just getting my foot off the brake because
That's 3 days before Decker disappeared with his daughters, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Searchers found the girls murdered days later at a campsite near Leavenworth.
I don't know how all of a sudden it felt like he was sitting at a stop.
Light was green.
Light was green. All the other cars were rolling.
A motorist called police after Decker rammed his Ford Mustang at a stoplight, punching a hole in the bumper.
Hey, registration.
Okay.
Sorry if I jacked up.
No big deal.
In the video, Decker admits he does not have insurance or a home address.
Where you at now?
I'm kind of in transit.
Okay. Where do you get mail right now?
I am receiving it at the armory over here in Wenatchee.
Decker was living out of his truck at the time, his mental state deteriorating, according to court records. He seemed especially interested in whether the officer will arrest him.
Just so you know, you'll probably be getting a ticket in the mail for having no insurance. So we're required to do that if we respond to an accident.
Am I going to jail tonight?
Oh, no, you won't go to jail for it. That's an infraction. That's not a criminal offense.
If I didn't have a license and I was driving, would I go to jail?
It depends.
I'm just curious. I don't know this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so it depends.
That conversation came after the driver that Decker hit tried to convince him he would not go to jail for a minor accident. That driver, who declined an on-camera interview, told me I could tell he was not in his full senses. He described Decker's odd questions and answers and his body language. Dashcam video we got last week shows Decker looking almost bored and nonchalant during the incident.
What happens if it's suspended?
That's a crime. Yeah.
Can you go to jail for that?
You can.
Depending on
It depends on the situation.
life.
It's hard to know what was in Decker's mind 3 days before he disappeared with the girls. But his final words to the police officer gave no hint of what was to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a better day.
They're all great days.
What's that?
I said they're all great days.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
man.
be safe out
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
So we have only heard from the mother of the girls, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, just once, and that was during the memorial 3 weeks after their bodies were found. King 5's Alex McClune shows us how the community is mourning, trying to heal from this tragedy.
It's tough to get an answer out of Wenatchee when you ask about the Decker girls. The attention is too much for their mother, her friends, and even strangers.
Sorry, this is really emotional.
It cut through the heart of the valley. It touched the world beyond Mission Street
Well, I was in Spain, and people there knew.
and the police department.
This is obviously a massive tragedy in a community.
2 weeks after the deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, this place and their family say they're ready to turn the page. Healing is the hardest part.
Tough day, huh?
The mayor has done most of the talking so far.
I will have nothing harder than this throughout my tenure. And I got an email from one of the relatives that says, "Thank you for talking about this. We don't know what we should say. We don't know how to go about it. You're expressing what we're all feeling."
That's what all of Wenatchee is doing.
Apple Blossom Floral is doing some things for the service. Loves Me Flowers and Cashmere is also helping out.
Police showed their support after it started with an Amber Alert.
One of our neighboring agency detectives asked on Monday, just this Monday, if we could do something for that. And
The girls left their mark, purple, pink, and green, their favorite colors. Police wear it on their chest, and parents tied them around the trees.
I wish that I could give her a hug from another mother.
Sometimes silence is stronger than words.
the service overlaps into our night shift tonight, and then so tomorrow morning when day shift comes back in on Saturday, they'll be back on.
A new chapter starts with a memorial service in the mountains with their teachers. 9-year-old Peyton asked deep questions. 8-year-old Evelyn was the star on the stage. 5-year-old Olivia found her place in the family, her grandfather says, thanks to their mom, who found the strength to take the stage in front of thousands.
Thank you everyone for being here tonight and the outpouring of love that you have shown me and my family over the past few weeks. I truly hope that the legacy of the girls' lives lives in everyone's heart forever. They were incredible.
This community carries their memories with their colors after the darkest time in Wenatchee.
And again today, that community coming together. The family of the Decker sisters, the community, have spoken out about the Amber Alert system, which was not activated in this case. And there's another focus as well on veterans services. An attorney for the girl's mother says that Travis Decker, the father, the former Army Ranger, actively looked for help but came up empty-handed. Here's King 5's Alex McClune with this report.
Moving on is the hardest part. Mike Poyer says helping Wenatchee heal will be the most difficult challenge as mayor.
No doubt in my mind, this is the hardest thing.
This community is forever tied to Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia Decker. Their mom, Whitney, says the system failed them.
We will get through this, but we will never forget this. And I think that's an important lesson, so we never go through this again. What can we do to help in the future? And it might be some legislation.
The mayor, a father of 3 grown daughters, says Wenatchee can be the epicenter for change. Lawmakers already took to the steps of Seattle City Hall.
We're not here to make any rash judgments, but we want to look at the system.
The federal Amber Alert system has 5 criteria, but the State Patrol says 2 criteria were not met: abduction and immediate danger.
They did not see him as an immediate physical danger to his children, despite the fact that he had a well-established history of mental health issues. And had they had seen it that way, those children might still be alive. And that's the thing that is so brutal. And the one thing she's really hoping can be changed in this tragedy.
The attorney for the girl's mother says the state system for veterans is collapsing due to statewide budget cuts. This memo shared by the attorney comes from the Central Washington Veterans Counseling, LLC. They say if Travis sought help in the last 6 months, they would have had no choice but to refer him to the Yakima Vet Center for bi-weekly in-person sessions, possibly supplemented with telehealth, or place him on a wait list due to lack of funding. Meanwhile, the center says we are still without sufficient alternative resources.
And Alex is with us now, and if you recall back several months ago, Alex was there in Chelan County covering this. I mean, this is a story, it is tragic on every level, from Whitney's loss of her 3 girls, to this father not getting the help that he had been seeking, to the community, the schools involved with these girls in all of their classrooms. And when you were covering this, I remember how challenging, how emotional it was. It still is. Here we are, finally potentially getting the DNA confirmation that his bones have been found. What are you thinking?
The thing that stuck with me after coming here to Seattle in May, weeks later going to Wenatchee for the first time and immersing myself in this community, we have flashpoints in our life. For us, the pandemic most recently. Early in my childhood, it was 9/11. For Wenatchee, this is something that they experienced because talking to people on the street, parents had to address this with their kids who may have been elementary school classmates with Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, and their kids are asking, what happened? And parents had to explain to their kids that this can happen to families. And obviously we just heard about the veteran services, but that was the really hard thing for me. And like you said, when this first happened, that families will be carrying this the rest of their lives.
Oh, yeah, and you talk about the little girls 5, 8, and 9 and their classrooms and the counseling that came in and their teachers who were trying to make sense of something that's impossible to make sense of. I mean, it's just so heartbreaking. And any of us who have children, we look at these 3 beautiful children and it makes no sense, right? You cannot get your mind around how this could happen, how a father could be accused of taking the lives of his own children, how the mom is even surviving, putting one foot in front of the other day after day. I mean, just so much of this is so heartbreaking. What did you hear from members of the community, from the teachers, from the other parents of small kids about how they were just going on one day at a time?
Yeah, it helped. I noticed that people were really talkative when they talked about the girls' personalities. I mean,
they were all so different. They were so different from each other, weren't they?
Yeah, Peyton was a dancer. She was a star on the stage, her grandfather said, at the memorial service at River's Edge Park. Evelyn was a reader. She also liked to participate at the Fabulous Feet dance studio in town. And then the youngest, Olivia, she was coming into her own personality, her grandfather says. She was curious about the world. And when we heard from Whitney Decker, their mother, we didn't know we were going to hear from her that night when she was on stage in front of 1,500 people. We were curious if we would ever see her at that memorial in town there. obviously this was so tragic, so we never saw her there, but at that memorial we saw the girls' classmates just crying, bawling about this. That was the hardest thing I had ever seen in this job.
And I know you read so many of the notes that people left
Yeah.
and that children left. Do you remember some of what they said? Beyond, we love you so much and we will miss you.
Yeah, they were definitely finding comfort in the local church there. The family, the girls and their mother and her family, they were members of the church there. So there were messages from fellow worshipers there. I'm trying to remember some of the messages written there, but there were so many, and obviously, like you've been saying, like this was traumatic for us to cover too. So it's difficult to recall some of the things I said, but it was definitely, it pulled on your heartstrings for sure.
What we do know is that this community really rallied and helped to lift this family up in what had to be, without question, their darkest moment. Thank you. Stay with us, okay, because we have a lot more coverage ahead. The Wenatchee community, again, in shock, probably still in shock after the death of these girls. Jim Nelson has a look at how they are coping with the loss.
Not the occasion that any of us would have wanted to be gathered tonight, but we're here.
This is the last place anyone wanted to be overcome with such sadness.
Obviously it's hard. I've been really proud of the girls. They've all been so supportive of each other and giving each other hugs.
To be remembering 3 young lives, children, grieving children.
I really miss her, and I just think it was too early.
They prayed that Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn would come home safely. But when that flickering hope burnt out, reality set in.
Though we lack the words that bring the comfort, what we don't lack is the sense of community.
And now, this community grieves together. The type of grief that brings an old vet to his knees. The grief young children face for the first time in their lives.
She was really nice. She was a really good dancer. And I really think she was a really good friend.
8-year-old Lily was on the same dance team as Evelyn. Lily's mom, Missy, went to college with the girl's mother.
Those girls were her whole world. She did everything for them, and they were so involved in the community.
There's that word again, community. And as this community struggles to cope or come up with the right things to say, they vow, for now, to let their actions do the talking.
Remember what we talked about? We're gonna dance even harder.
For Evelyn.
For Evelyn, yeah.
I just really miss her.
And we're gonna remember her forever, huh? Her and her sisters.
Yep.
Perhaps the last place anyone wants to be is the first place they need to be to begin the healing process.
It brings you right back to being in that community, doesn't it?
And we saw like just the young parents, older parents, and they all have these children that are the same age. So I can only imagine. I'm not a parent myself. My friends are becoming parents. I can only imagine what it was like to be a young parent to talk to their kids, their elementary age kids about this.
You know, it's interesting because as I've thought about this story in this case, you know, Whitney said it was so unusual for Travis not to bring the girls home, that he'd had visitation many times. And part of the reason they didn't issue the Amber Alert, because there was really, at that moment, not a reason to think that the girls were potentially in danger. So part of the tragedy, right? That no one saw it coming at all until these girls were found in the days that followed. When you think about the nationwide manhunt that followed and the weeks that we went without really knowing, like, where could he be? Is he alive? Why? There's so many questions around this case. And we kept following it and nothing really came up until about a week ago when they...
Out of the blue, too.
And remember, they had hundreds of people scouring the woods and just nothing.
And at point, I mean, I don't know if you read what people were putting out there on social media, just people who were really captivated by the story, but people were saying, oh, he went north to Canada, or oh, he went south to Mexico, and we learned last week he was less than a mile from where he abandoned his truck. If you don't know, his remains were found, the outfit he was last known to be wearing, including his Army Ranger shorts, a very personal identifier, right?
Along with a green shirt. He had a bracelet, chewing tobacco, and to your point, less than a mile from the scene of where his truck was recovered and where the girls were found.
And let's talk about the terrain, the Cascades.
Very
I mean,
challenging.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been out there before, but I mean, these are steep elevation gains. Like, we learned that people who want to hike there and camp overnight, it requires a permit, and that's a lottery process. So this is a beautiful place, and that obviously, the investigation disrupted people who wanted to be there. But yeah, the elevation gain I wanted to talk about, that was a real challenge for these investigators. I mean, when we talked to the sheriff this summer, the search teams that were out there, these are professionals. They're conditioned to hike, cut through terrain, a lot of grass. And there he was, less than a mile, maybe right under their noses. Granted, it was a new area they were searching. It's not
he's
like
a U.S. Ranger, right?
Yep.
So if anyone could figure out how to not be found, it would be Travis Decker, right?
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, it's not like he was under their noses. This was a new area, and it required a helicopter to drop a team in.
And drones were used to even locate.
That was also new. That was interesting.
So Eric Wilkinson is actually at the Chelan County Courthouse. Are we close to being able to go to him? We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we want you to stay with us because we are going to have a live report to find out if, in fact, through DNA confirmation, these bones that were found a week ago today are that of Travis Decker. Again, we'll have that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're on King 5 Plus. Joyce Taylor here with Chris Ingalls, and of course we're following the developments expected in the next half hour on Travis Decker and the bones that were found about a week ago in the woods near Leavenworth, about a mile from the scene where the Decker girls were found. You found that video, that eerie videotape that we saw of that traffic stop just days before these girls disappeared. How did you even find that video?
Well, yeah, I mean, as you know, Joyce, I work in the King 5 investigative unit, and when something like this happens, a big story like this happens, management says, hey, you King 5 investigators, get in there, start going through the records. Who is this guy? What's he all about? What do we know about him? And one of the things we started doing was requesting police records and court records. And I noticed as I was reading through, I think it was actually a court record, Joyce, that there were a couple of indications that Travis Decker had been in 2 accidents just within weeks of his girls disappearing. And there were like case numbers for each of those police reports. So I just made a records request. And lo and behold, on one of those cases, it was a police call where the person reporting this incident said that Decker had slammed into them at the rear of their car at a stoplight. The officer actually rolled up, a Wenatchee police officer, with a dash cam rolling and with a body cam rolling. And I think you just watched this story a short time ago that's
eerie.
the video that we saw. Yeah.
And so during this traffic stop, he seems fairly normal. Like, he's talking with the guy, he's very sort of apologetic, concerned a lot about what might happen with police. What was your takeaway from that video, knowing that 3 days later this would all transpire?
Well, that's the astonishing thing, and the thing that really makes you sick inside, because you know what's coming, right? You know the end of the story, and it's never going to be good. It's just horrible. But there's really two things that impacted me. I mean, first of all, there's watching Decker on the video. He does some things that I think you would say are, you know, just normal things. And then there's some other things that are kind of peculiar.
What was normal? What was peculiar?
Well, so, I mean, he's chatting with some people. You know, he's waiting for the police officer to come with kind of a dejected look on his face. He knows that he's at fault. And then there's the other thing that he's worried that he's going to go to jail for this minor traffic accident, which doesn't really seem to compute. Why would you be worried about going to jail? Is there something else going on there? But also there's the video. And then I also talked to the victim, the person whose car got hit. I spoke to him on the phone. He didn't want to be identified. He didn't want anything to do with the story, but he said that he knew this man was peculiar. He was acting strangely. Again, he kept saying, do you have to call the police? I'm going to go to jail, and all this kind of thing. So you're kind of left with, something wasn't right with this guy, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it. And then again, this happened 3 days before he disappeared from his ex-wife's home with those 3 girls.
You have covered so many stories. You are the father of 3, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, none of it computes for any of us, right? I mean, it's sort of mind-boggling to know, after you see that video, especially when he seems fairly okay, that what would transpire 3 days later, where the girls were all found with bags over their heads, zip-tied, all dead, and you just can't even appreciate the anguish that must have been happening for all of them. No one can get their mind around it. How do you try to make sense?
Well, you're a mother.
Yeah, I can't. I look at these 3 girls, and I like many of you who are watching, I just cannot, it doesn't compute for me.
That's what it is, because we all do everything we possibly can for our kids. That's the number one thing in our lives, right, as parents.
The most important thing.
So that's it. I mean, and you know, Joyce, going into this kind of thing, there's never going to be any good answer. There's never going to be any clear answer. I mean, now we can be about a certain, you're watching the body cam video here. That's Decker in the blue shirt. Now, even with Decker gone, now that Decker's, it looks like he's, been confirmed dead, there aren't going to be any answers. So
or closure.
I mean,
legally,
no
obviously, the
for
case.
people about why this terrible thing happened. And that's the really hard thing. You look at those 3 beautiful girls. You look at Decker in his T-shirt leaning up against that truck 3 days before that happened. And you're like, what in the world is going on here? There is no explanation for that.
And then the nationwide manhunt, which at some point we were thinking, did he go to Canada? To know that his remains were literally found, granted, very rugged, very challenging terrain, less than a mile from the scene of this crime, also surprised me. Did it surprise you?
I guess maybe it did. I mean, did he live? Did he continue on? Was there more to, his plan? All questions that, it appears the answer was no. But I think another question that I had just watching that video, getting back to the video, is why didn't police release that? They were telling all of us to be on the lookout for this guy, right? And the video that you see here is the absolute most complete description of him you will ever get. You see him, you hear him, he's answering questions.
You see his hair, you see what he looks like.
Yeah, so if you saw that guy walking down the street in Leavenworth, let's say, you would have recognized him from this video.
So why didn't they release it?
So I asked both the Wenatchee Police Department, which had that video, and the Chelan County Sheriff, there was that office that was very involved in the investigation. They both said that they thought that they'd put enough information out there. They thought they'd put enough, had photos of him, they had, some detailed descriptions of him. But I still don't buy the answer. I just don't understand why they didn't release this video. Because it is so telling and it is so visual, and you see his demeanor, his interaction, it's all right there on the body cam video.
It's just so much more than a photograph.
Yeah.
Just all of it that captures his body movement, his facial expressions, what he looked like in the moment at that time. it would have been helpful.
If you're asking us all to be on the lookout for this guy,
Yeah.
that video is the best way to have, eyes opened to what he's like.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
Well, again, we're waiting for confirmation, which should come in the next 30 minutes. We are expecting that they will confirm through DNA testing that the bones found are that of Travis Decker. We're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. A lot more ahead. Welcome back, everybody. So you're on King 5 Plus, and we are, of course, tracking the developments expected in the next half hour on the bones that were found a week ago today near Leavenworth, about a mile away from where the 3 Decker sisters were found dead. Chris Ingalls is here. You followed this story. You had the exclusive with the video that was found just days before all of this transpired, this tragedy. There has been a little bit of a disconnect between what the feds have decided to release, which he is dead and confirming that, but the Chelan County Sheriff wanting to wait for DNA confirmation. How do you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any great explanation, but I can tell you this. I mean, usually before someone is declared dead, authorities want to be 100% sure that they have that right. You don't want to have to backtrack on that. What an awful thing. So they wait until the final tests come in, forensic tests that may be done and things like that. Yeah. Apparently the Marshal's Office thought there was enough, the federal authorities, the U.S. Marshal's Office, thought there was enough information pulled together that they said, yes, Decker is dead. But the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, the local investigators who were also involved in the search for him, said, hold on a minute, there's just a few more tests out there that are still outstanding. And those test results may be in now. That may be what's coming up here for this press conference we're waiting for. U.S.
Marshals found the shirt that matched U.S. Ranger shorts, a bracelet, other things that they believe he had with him, so I think they were pretty confident going with what they had. But there was DNA that was available on the zip ties and the plastic found at the crime scene, which the Chelan County Sheriff wanted to double confirm.
Sure.
We want to go to Eric Wilkinson now. He is in Wenatchee at the Chelan County Courthouse where we're awaiting for confirmation through DNA. Eric, good afternoon. What can you tell us at this point?
Well, we're all still waiting for the news conference expected to happen here outside the Chelan County Courthouse in less than 30 minutes. We still don't know for sure, but certainly all indications are pointing toward the likelihood that that body found last week is that of Travis Decker. As you guys were mentioning, there were some personal effects in the area that appeared to have belonged to him, as well as just the location where the body was found, less than a mile from where the murder scene was. Of course, there has been, again, rampant discussion since that word came out from the U.S. Marshal's Office declaring Decker dead in some court filings, and that was in order to dismiss the the charges against them. But again, as Chris was saying, the county coroner said, yeah, we're not going to go there yet. We have to be absolutely sure that this is indeed him. Those test results, we would assume now are done that by the fact that the coroner and the sheriff are coming out to address us, and they will give us some official word one way or another. Of course, as you'll recall, I mean, this has been an ordeal that has gripped the state of Washington, much of the Northwest, neighboring states for the past 4 months, 118 days since those little girls went missing on that camping trip with their father, found murdered on a campsite outside of Leavenworth. Now, several weeks ago, authorities here in Chelan County decided to kind of do a reset. They said, it's been so long, let's go back to the beginning. They started looking in the area about a quarter mile around that campsite because they had gotten data and information from different law enforcement agencies, the FBI, all across the country, saying a lot of times these guys don't make it very far. So they started sort of in concentric circles, going out deeper and deeper, and it appears that they were able to find something. Now, you'll recall probably back on June 10th, authorities thought they had Decker pinned down a little ways south of here on Blewett Pass in the remote area of the Enchantments, because there was a suspicious looking person who had been spotted by some hikers. That turned out to be a false lead. Again, this body found just about 3/4 of a mile from the murder scene. This is, of course, we will bring all of the new developments to you as they unfold here. We're expecting, again, the news to come here at 4 o'clock. We'll send it back to you.
Eric, if you can just fill us in a little bit more on the search, which you said went on for nearly 4 months before these bones were recovered. They used special drones, they brought in canine, and then to find these remains so close to the crime scene. What more can you tell us about the search, the number of people involved, and why it just took so long?
Well, that's the question that we'll be asking. Why did it take so long if this is indeed Decker and he was found so close to the murder scene? You know, we were out here, they had ATVs, they had horses, they had dogs, they had helicopters, they had drones. But, you know, as you were talking about earlier, this is some very, very difficult terrain. It's very steep. It's almost impossible to cover every square inch or every quarter mile even. So, again, questions that we will be asking tonight as the officials come out and speak with us at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, you know, Eric, I think one thing that strikes me is you think that it was a drone that helped identify, you know, these remains. And if you've been out in that area before, like I have, it really is. There's a lot of nooks and crannies and things that you might not see unless you're up in the air. So that possibility that a drone really played a role in this could be very real. Another question, I wonder if you mentioned the coroner and the sheriff. Are those the two agencies that we expect at this press conference, or will any other agencies be represented there?
It's still unknown. It was the coroner who sent the media release out this morning, and so we expect him to be here. Certainly, the sheriff has been an integral part of all this. And, you know, if this is indeed Decker, it's been a widespread investigation involving multiple agencies. You would think that they would probably have some other folks along as well from local law enforcement, maybe even as far as the FBI.
What kind of sense are you getting from the community there? Because clearly, on the one hand, the legal side of this, it brings some closure if it does turn out that DNA confirms these bones were Decker. But it's open-ended and forever a tragedy in this community. Are you talking to people, and what are they saying? What are you hearing?
Well, there's no discussion about how hard this hit this community, and we were out here at the memorial, people openly weeping. 3 dead little girls. I mean, there's you can't wrap your head around it, as you were saying earlier. I think just the fact that the word about the likelihood of this being Decker came out earlier in the week, I think that may have kind of released that pressure valve a little bit. So people have maybe been able to exhale some, but we know certainly there is going to be a great deal of relief if this word does actually come. I can't imagine what it would be like if they step out here today and say, no, this wasn't him.
Eric, do you know, I just want to ask one question. Do we know if the girl's mother, Whitney, has any plans to say anything, depending on what this news conference reveals today?
we haven't heard anything from the family. As you know, they've been very, very private. They even left their home. There's been a family friend who was sort of dealing with media and such, and we haven't heard from the family at all. You would think that probably at some point they would want to come out and just say thank you, but again, no word on that yet. This is all, everyone's just sort of holding their breath right now, waiting to see what happens.
Totally understandable.
Eric, we're going to get back to you shortly as we expect to hear some kind of news in the next 20 minutes. Thank you so much for standing by for us. We'll talk with you in just a few moments. But as you know, Eric mentioned that vigil and the memorial service that took place. Jim Nelson was there in the Wenatchee area in Chelan County, and we want to go to this report now from that.
Not the occasion that any of us would have wanted to be gathered tonight, but we're here.
This is the last place anyone wanted to be overcome with such sadness.
Obviously, it's hard. I've been really proud of the girls. They've all been so supportive of each other and giving each other hugs.
To be remembering 3 young lives, children, grieving children.
I really miss her, and I just think it was too early.
They prayed that Peyton, Olivia, and Evelyn would come home safely. But when that flickering hope burnt out, reality set in.
Though we lack the words that bring the comfort, what we don't lack is the sense of community.
And now, this community grieves together. The type of grief that brings an old vet to his knees. The grief young children face for the first time in their lives.
She was really nice. She was a really good dancer. And I really think she was a really good friend.
8-year-old Lily was on the same dance team as Evelyn. Lily's mom, Missy, went to college with the girl's mother.
Those girls were her whole world. She did everything for them, and they were so involved in the community.
There's that word again, community. And as this community struggles to cope or come up with the right things to say, they vow, for now, to let their actions do the talking.
Remember what we talked about? We're gonna dance even harder.
For Evelyn.
For Evelyn, yeah.
I just really miss her.
And we're gonna remember her forever, huh? Her and her sisters.
Yep.
Perhaps the last place anyone wants to be is the first place they need to be to begin the healing process.
And on this day, again, in about 15 minutes, we're waiting for the very latest on the Decker case. Confirmation we expect through DNA that the bones found last week were that of Travis Decker. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. you are just joining us on King 5 Plus, I'm Joyce Taylor, and in about 15 minutes, we're expecting an update from the Chelan County Sheriff on the case of Travis Decker, the 32-year-old father charged with killing his 3 young girls during a visitation back in June. 9-year-old Peyton, 8-year-old Evelyn, 5-year-old Olivia. This case, as you know, launched that nationwide manhunt. It involved local authorities, federal authorities. We expect confirmation on the remains found a week ago today. Near Leavenworth, about less than a mile from the crime scene, bones that were found that we believe are that of Decker. The Chelan County Sheriff, Mike Morrison, telling King 5 he expects to have DNA confirmation today. This case has been ongoing, and Greg Copeland wants to break down for us now the exact timeline for you.
This case started back on Friday, May 30th. Travis Decker had a scheduled visitation with Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, which was part of the parenting plan he had with the girls' mother. The next day, when the girls didn't return, she called authorities, and an endangered missing person alert was sent out. On Monday, June 2nd, the Chelan County Sheriff's Office found Decker's truck near the Rock Island campground about 17 miles west of Leavenworth, and the girls' bodies were found nearby. A massive manhunt was then launched. Because of his survival skills, authorities believed he could live in the woods for months. Just days later, on June 10th, hikers reported seeing a man who looked like Decker near Kolchuk Lake. Soon after that, hiking trails were closed. People were asked to check their cabins, and the National Guard joined the search along with other national agencies. Tips came in from across the country of possible sightings, including one on July 5th in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest. That ended up being a hiker who looked like Decker. At the end of July, the Chelan County Sheriff had to scale back on that search because of the rising costs. The remains believed to be Decker were found near where the girls were found more than 4 months ago.
So the U.S. Marshal Service has declared Travis Decker dead, but as we've been telling you, the Chelan County Sheriff has said not so fast. King 5's Maddie White sat down with the sheriff, who's fielding calls and emails after federal partners made it sound like it was a done deal.
I would love to come out as the sheriff for our county and say this case has been concluded, Mr. Decker's been located, but we're just not at that point yet.
Investigators finally got a break last week.
Just the geographical location certainly put a high probability that this was Mr. Decker.
They say they found what is probably the body of Travis Decker.
We recognize that the clothing we found, the personal items, were consistent with images that we had collected of Mr. Decker before.
It's why the U.S. Marshals Service submitted a motion to wind down their search, writing to the court, defendant Travis Caleb Decker is deceased.
And I understand the kind of message that this sends. Somehow as a group that we've come to the determination that Mr. Decker is deceased.
But Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison says that's not been proven.
I know our community, just like us, wants this kind of closure. We're there, but I will not say it unless I'm 100% positive that I can look my citizens in the eye and say, you have nothing else to fear. This case is closed.
Those DNA results are expected very soon.
We're very thankful for the U.S. Marshal Service.
The more boots on the ground, the better when it comes to searching the woods for an accused killer. But when it comes to managing public information,
they were not making a determination that he was officially deceased.
Maybe there's such a thing.
I don't believe it was anything intentional on their part, too, to cause confusion.
As too many cooks in the kitchen.
This was an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people, and hopefully we can say the ride's coming to an end.
We should have an official answer in about 10 to 12 minutes. Also, you know, the King 5 investigators obtained that body cam video of the police officer talking to Travis Decker. We're going to show that to you right after a break. 5 investigator Chris Ingalls is here. You had that exclusive story of the body cam video that we saw of Travis Decker just days before this all happened. Tell us more.
I mean, if you want to see Travis Decker, what he looks like, how he talks, how he interacts with people, this was the video that showed us that. It was a car accident that he was involved in just days before he disappeared with his daughters, and this is what we saw.
What's going on, guys?
How Travis Decker looks, acts, speaks.
Everybody was rolling and everything was going, and all of a sudden I hit him.
It's all here on a Wenatchee police body cam video recorded on May 27th.
I wasn't on the accelerator. I was still just getting my foot off the brake because
That's 3 days before Decker disappeared with his daughters, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. Searchers found the girls murdered days later at a campsite near Leavenworth.
I don't know how all of a sudden it felt like he was sitting at a stop.
Light was green.
Light was green. All the other cars were rolling.
A motorist called police after Decker rammed his Ford Mustang at a stoplight, punching a hole in the bumper.
Get registration.
Okay.
Sorry if I was jacked up.
No big deal.
In the video, Decker admits he does not have insurance or a home address.
Where are you at now?
I'm kind of in transit.
Okay. Where do you get mail right now?
I am receiving it at the Armory over here in Wenatchee.
Decker was living out of his truck at the time, his mental state deteriorating, according to court records. He seemed especially interested in whether the officer will arrest him.
Just so you know, you'll probably be getting a ticket in the mail for having no insurance, so we're required to do that if we respond to an accident.
Am I going to jail tonight?
Oh, no, you won't go to jail for it. That's an infraction. That's not a criminal offense.
If I didn't have a license and I was driving, would I go to jail?
It depends.
I'm just curious. I don't know this stuff. I don't know.
Well, so it depends.
That conversation came after the driver that Decker hit tried to convince him he would not go to jail for a minor accident. That driver, who declined an on-camera interview, told me I could tell he was not in his full senses. He described Decker's odd questions and answers and his body language. Dashcam video we got last week shows Decker looking almost bored and nonchalant during the incident.
What happens if it's suspended?
That's a crime. Yeah.
Can you go to jail for that?
You can.
Depending on...
It depends on the situation.
It's hard to know what was in Decker's mind 3 days before he disappeared with the girls. But his final words to the police officer gave no hint of what was to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a better day.
They're all great days.
What's that?
I said they're all great days.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
man.
be safe out
yeah,
there.
Thank you.
So eerie to see that video, isn't it? Tell us more about how you found it.
Well, let me tell you, this shows how much this has affected all of us, this whole thing. The man who was hit by Decker's car, the victim in that case, he felt absolutely horrible that because he called police on Decker when Decker had pleaded for him not to do that, because he said, hey, I'm going to have to submit this to the insurance company, and Decker said, I don't have any money to pay for it. That man felt like maybe he triggered him somehow.
Oh, wow.
Could he have had something to do with Decker's actions over the next days when he kidnapped his daughters, and then we know what terrible things he did to them. So, it just tells you, and I was telling the man on the phone, I said, it was not you, it had nothing to do with you. That was a normal thing that happens all over every day, but again, he was just, I would say almost, despondent that he
After
could have had
learned
something
what
to
had
do with it.
happened.
Yeah.
We've made space to bring Alex McClune in here. Come on in, Alex. And that's because Alex was one of the first reporters to get to Eastern Washington to cover this, to talk with families, some of the students who knew some of these girls that were affected. We only heard from the mother of the girls, Whitney, only at the memorial service. Before we talk with you, let's just show what happened at that memorial service. Go ahead and roll it.
It's tough to get an answer out of Wenatchee when you ask about the Decker girls. The attention is too much for their mother, her friends, and even strangers.
Sorry, this is really emotional.
It cut through the heart of the valley. It touched the world beyond Mission Street.
Well, I was in Spain, and people there knew.
And the police department.
This is obviously a massive tragedy in a community.
2 weeks after the deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, This place and their family say they're ready to turn the page. Healing is the hardest part.
Tough day, huh?
The mayor has done most of the talking so far.
I will have nothing harder than this throughout my tenure. And I got an email from one of the relatives that says, thank you for talking about this. We don't know what we should say. We don't know how to go about it. You're expressing what we're all feeling.
That's what all of Wenatchee is doing.
Apple Blossom Floral is doing some things for the service. Loves Me Flowers and Cashmere is also helping out.
Police showed their support after it started with an Amber Alert.
One of our neighboring agency detectives asked on Monday, just this Monday, if we could do something for that.
The girls left their mark, purple, pink, and green, their favorite colors. Police wear it on their chest, and parents tied them around the trees.
I wish that I could give her a hug from another mother.
Sometimes silence is stronger than words.
The service overlaps into our night shift tonight, and then so tomorrow morning when day shift comes back in on Saturday, they'll be back on.
A new chapter starts with a memorial service in the mountains with their teachers. 9-year-old Peyton asked deep questions. 8-year-old Evelyn was the star on the stage. 5-year-old Olivia found her place in the family, her grandfather says, thanks to their mom.
With news that we have received our DNA results back from the Washington State Patrol's crime lab from the items that we recovered last week. That would be the clothing and also the human remains. We are glad to say that those remains do come back as a positive match for Travis Decker. It's a big day for Chelan County Sheriff's Office, all of our federal partners, that we can finally bring a close to this dark chapter of Chelan County. Certainly pay respects to the deaths of Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia. We wanted to show honor to them, let them know that we never forgot about them. We haven't forgot about their family. To Whitney, we apologize that it's taken this long to get the closeness and the closure that we are looking for in this case, but I hope that you can rest easier at night knowing that Travis is accounted for. He is deceased. Our DNA results confirm that, and this will bring a close to our case. I want to thank our detectives, our investigative unit, for the amount of time, effort, and just overall sacrifice that they put in. They never relented on this case. They remained focused, and they made sure that, number one, justice was served, and most importantly, the law prevailed in this situation. We appreciate all of our federal partners, the FBI, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Marshal Service will come up and talk after me, and then we'll take questions after that. We also had our partners at the Criminal Investigation Division, Border Patrol with their BORAT team, and also their BOR Star team. We couldn't have done this by ourselves. We're a medium-sized agency, as I've said throughout this process. We appreciate our federal partners standing up alongside of us, assisting us. We appreciate the Washington State Patrol. Specifically, I'd like to give thanks to operational psychologist Stacy Gutchett and her work and her forensics analysis of Mr. Decker that assisted us in our fourth search, pointed us in the direction of Grindstone Mountain, an area of interest that we wanted to search, and her insight and guidance led us to an important area to search where we did eventually locate Mr. Decker. Again, we couldn't have done this by ourselves. I want to thank the King County Sheriff's Office, the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office for also coming alongside of us, allocating their air assets to us. We could not have done it by ourselves if we had not had the rappelling capabilities that we had from the helicopters. Again, we would have struggled. They would have taken months longer, and we're thankful for that. But most importantly, to our community, thank you. Thank you for supporting us, being patient. We wanted this wrapped up within the first couple days. We knew it took months. We knew that you sat on edge as we were also stressed out about this situation. But again, you never wavered your support from us. We're grateful for that. We haven't forgot it, and we hope that you can also rest easy at night knowing that Mr. Decker is accounted for. Unfortunately, he's deceased. To his family, my condolences to you. I understand this could be your brother, your son, your family member. We never wanted any harm to come to him, but unfortunately the circumstances are what they are. He succumbed to whatever injuries those were. We're going to hear back from our coroner's office, the medical examiner, if they're able to get a cause of death or a time of death. But we appreciate them also working with us, working closely with us, and also being respectful of those remains as we found them. We will hand them back over to his family when the time is appropriate. But we just thank everyone that has come alongside the Chelan County Sheriff's Office, the media, who has also been here assisting us as we've kept Mr. Decker's face out there in public. I know at times a lot of the citizens, not only here in Washington State, but nationally, were wondering when are we going to get closure to this case. Again, we needed the media to do this. We needed them to keep their face out there so we could have Travis, if he was out beyond our borders, at least under some pressure. But again, fate had what it was. We were able to locate him, and again, we appreciate it. I'm going to let the U.S. Marshal Service also present. They've been alongside us from day one. We appreciate that partnership, the resources, the finances they put into this. We couldn't have done it without them. Same with the FBI, but the Marshal Service really took on a heavy burden for us, overseeing the search efforts, while our detective investigative units went and focused primarily on the investigation, knowing that we were getting ready for a criminal trial. This was a triple homicide. We never lost sight of that. This was also a kidnapping. We never lost sight of that. Before I conclude, though, I also want to make sure that I pay thanks specifically to the Wenatchee Police Department, Detective Hewitt. If it had not been for his tireless effort, the days coming up to Monday when we jumped into this investigation, we would have had 2,900 square miles that we've had to search without any real guidance. His efforts, the Wenatchee Police Department, their investigative unit, certainly gave us a leg up to be able to track them down, get to the site quickly. We thank Deputy Mike McLeod for his quick work in finding that campsite. But again, not only nationally with our federal partners, state partners, but regionally we had help with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, East Wenatchee Police Department, Wenatchee Police Department. But specifically, I want to make sure that Detective Hewitt was recognized for his efforts, his work. He certainly gave us everything we needed to jump into this investigation and get there quickly. And they continued to stay beside us, talking with Whitney and the family, making sure that they were talking with them as we were focusing on the investigation. So I just want to make sure I said thank you to them as well. I'll let the Marshal's Office speak, and then after that we'll take any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Jerome Brown with the Marshal Service. I'm based out of Spokane, Washington. I'm the supervisor for the task force. The first time I spoke before this podium, I promised you that we would not stop until we found the fugitive. My job and my team's job is to find the fugitives using the Rapid Advancing Manhunt program, which we did, along with the help from the partners that was mentioned from the sheriff already. There's numerous to mention. I'm not going to go over the list again, but without the community, which is what this truly is about, law enforcement community, family community, community members that are out here present. Without all of you, we could not have done this. This is a team, truly team, family endeavor. That's why this was successful. So remember that when you go home, that we were supported with food, roofs, things when we needed them to accomplish our mission as a law enforcement community. You helped us and supported us in that endeavor. That's why we are successful. So again, thank you to everybody, and I'll go into questions unless Sheriff has something else.
No, we'll open it up to questions.
Are you able to talk a little bit, if at all, I know it's very early, about how he died or when he died?
We're going to leave it up to the coroner's office. Coroner Harris has already confirmed that they're doing the best they can with their medical partners to determine if they can determine a cause of death and also how long he had been deceased when he was out there. Again, we understand that process takes time. We did not get full remains. We have gotten majority of the remains back. But again, that's a process, and we're hoping that they are able to determine that because we know that's something the community wanted to know. But as of now, we don't have those answers.
Sheriff, were there any clues to try to figure out whether he had been on the run all this time or if he went straight to Grindstone Mountain?
Based off the information we have, it appears that the potential of him going directly up Grindstone Mountain shortly after the event or within that day would be pretty consistent. But again, we'll look at the time frame once we hear back from the coroner's office, and hopefully we can get a clearer picture on what was the cause of death. Again, if it was anything outside of what would be an explainable cause of death and it wasn't at Mr. Decker's own decision by his own hand, we would investigate that as a separate homicide. Again, we will pay respects to him. We'll honor his family as well, but we'll wait to hear what the coroner's office and the medical examiner has to say.
Sheriff, how were you able to circle in on this one specific tiny area to actually find the body?
So this was our fourth search. It was a planned search. We appreciate the U.S. Marshals overseeing that, taking it on. The FBI had done our third one. After that, this was the area that we had been speaking with the Washington State Patrol and their operational psychologist, who I mentioned before. That would be Stacy Chuckett. Really appreciate her insight. So we did get forensics analysis when it came back from the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI, with their forensic psychologist, and of course the Washington State Patrol. And she had highlighted an area of interest that was on Grindstone Mountain. She even guesstimated about what elevation we were looking at, and we really appreciate her insight. She brought certainly a different perspective than we had received from the FBI or the Marshal Service. But again, we were taking information as we could throughout this investigation. It was rapidly evolving. I think we utilized our resources best as possible. And the last iteration, Washington State Patrol coming in with this contracted operational psychologist certainly gave us a different area to look at, but it was always something that we were going to check next as our search area continued to expand out.
Sheriff, what was kind of the clues that led to that area being, as you mentioned, an area of interest?
It was outside of the three search areas that we had already checked. It was certainly within sight of our original crime scene, and we knew also with the information that had been obtained with the psychologist there from Washington State Patrol that they viewed that would be an area that they might have singled out, or Mr. Decker might have viewed out as an area that he would have headed.
Sheriff, I saw that there was a tip line. How many people submitted to that tip line? And did rumors or any other leads kind of prolong like the lead, or was that difficult in that
Yeah. So certainly we were running our tip line. We really appreciate the FBI coming in and overseeing that over the first couple of days of the operation. You're going to thousands of tips coming in, and then of course it slowly dwindled down. But you're hearing leads that everyone was telling us, you've missed it, he's already in Canada, he's in Mexico. Clearly we have the Marshal Service, they have relationships as well with international partners. We did have international partners in Mexico and Canada following up on leads, along with nationally here. We had viewings in Montana, Idaho, Texas. So again, we appreciate our national resources that we had. Also, we had local resources in different states that were willing to step up, assist us, track down leads. Again, we couldn't have done this by ourselves, but certainly we weren't overlooking any tip that came in, any bit of advice that we had. But it certainly strained our resources that we did have, but we primarily kept our focus here with our investigators, and eventually we got the results we were looking for.
Sheriff, have you spoken with Whitney and kind of walk us through how the family is coping at this time? We know that this has been a tragedy that's devastated the entire community.
Yeah, so I have been in touch with Whitney. We've certainly tried to respect her privacy throughout this process. We know that she's grieving, the family's grieving. We've told her that we will share information that she feels appropriate. We had a general idea. I'd like to thank Captain Chance with Wenatchee Police Department. He really was the point of contact primarily with the family. But when we did have press releases that came out that I felt that would be more shocking to the conscience, we did try to communicate that with her so she wasn't taken back by it. But we understand no matter what, this is not going to bring Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia back. If anything, we just hope that maybe she would sleep better at night. She wouldn't be looking over her shoulder. But we understand nothing we can do is going to reverse this travesty and bring her daughters back, which we feel for that, but we certainly have done everything we can to be supportive of her and respect her privacy and keep her informed when she needed to be.
Can you talk a little?
Can you tell us just how it feels for you personally and for your department to finally have this day come?
My focus is more back on my agency. I understand that a lot of our deputies have taken a huge toll when they're sitting there on the crime scene for hours on end. Our detectives are having to read through these reports, the fine details of the case that no officer in his law enforcement career should really have to read through. So I certainly am focusing on them, making sure that they have the support they need with psychologists, critical incident stress management, peer supporters. We've done everything we can to make sure we're supporting them on that front. I would say personally that I certainly view it as a win for our community that we can close this. This has been a very dark chapter. You're looking at one of the largest manhunts in Chelan County history, one of the most horrific crimes that we've seen in Chelan County, and we're glad to put it behind us. Personally, I certainly just feel for the family. I couldn't imagine that as a father, to lose any of my kids, especially all three, and I hope that we never see anything like this in Chelan County again. But personally, I'm just glad to see it's closing out and we're putting it behind it. And number one, above all, that we found Mr. Decker, he's accounted for, and that we can say that threat to our community is confirmed, no longer a threat.
Is this case officially closed in Chelan County now?
We will go through the final processes of closing out the case. We know that our detectives still have some things to wrap up. We still consider this to be a criminal case. We're making sure that we've documented all of our evidence, that we've completed all of our reports, and that we've done what we need to do to process the evidence we have. We do not believe there are any other suspects, anything else we need to follow up on, but we want to make sure it's closed properly.
Sheriff, do you think you've gotten any closer, or will you ever get close to the reason why Mr. Decker might have done this?
No, I don't think we'll ever have a true reason. I don't think it really matters what his reasoning was. In our view, and based off the evidence we have, he committed murder. It's inexcusable, it's inexplainable, and we would have liked to, of course, heard his thought process and what he was thinking at the time. But I don't think anything he said would have justified it. The bottom line is our community is now down 3 young girls that would have been our bright future. They're not here. I know several members of our agencies had their kids interacting with them on sporting events and other personal events, so it's a loss for us personally too. We recognize that those girls are gone for their family. They're not going to be able to enjoy birthdays, other memories, first dances, first sporting events, even first jobs. So I certainly feel for them. I understand that is a huge loss, and I certainly will be sending my prayers towards them, hoping that they can find some kind of closure on this.
Can you speak to the state of the remains? You touched on this a little bit last week, but did the crime lab give any indication about why it may have been particularly difficult to test any of these samples as to the state of the remains? Or?
No, I would say the biggest challenge to the results was me, personally. I requested more than they're used to. I appreciate Chief Batiste and his team being flexible and willing to adjust. I did not want to take any chance of just coming back with samples from the clothing. I wanted samples from the remains that were also located there. I know this was an unusual request for the State Patrol. I appreciate them humoring me on this, but we also wanted to make sure we shut down conspiracy theories. Mr. Decker did not bring anyone else up there and leave the remains behind. This is Mr. Decker's remains. The clothing matches, the remains match. That is the end of the conversation. This is why we asked them to take their time, test more samples. And again, I have to follow the lead that our detectives did. They've been thorough, by the book, and have not rushed any process through this. So when we're making this request to the Washington State Patrol, I understand that it took more time, but I certainly have to follow our investigators' leads and say, go the extra mile, don't rush this investigation and make sure it's closed out properly. I think we did that. Though it was frustrating to our community, I understand that, and to others, the Sheriff's Office did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Is there any specific estimate of how many personnel across all the agencies worked together throughout this entire process?
I would say hundreds. In the search alone that the FBI coordinated, we were over 100 personnel that were on the ground searching, in addition to the amount of money that each agency has contributed. Had the Chelan County Sheriff's Office and the Chelan County government itself had to absorb the cost of this, it would have bankrupted our county. So thank you to the FBI, thank you to the U.S. Forest Service, thank you to Border Patrol, thank you to the Marshals, thank you to every single municipality and county agency that came out, contributed funds. Again, we couldn't have done this by ourselves, and I've heard you spent a lot of money. I guarantee if it was your kids, you would ask me to spend the same amount of money. So if I had to do it over again, we'd do it exactly the same way to ensure that justice was served and again that the law prevailed.
Is this the largest manhunt we've seen in the nation?
I'm not sure on the nation. I certainly have our subject matter expert here, but for Chelan County, this certainly takes the largest manhunt that I think we've ever seen, that we've ever heard of. And we did talk to former members of our agency, but I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before.
Sheriff, is there a timeline from the
Coroner's office as to when they may have some more definitive results as to a cause and manner?
They said it could take months. I'm not the subject matter expert in here, but I know that Coroner Harris was open to have any questions on that front to be redirected back over towards him. Certainly someone I would trust his opinion. He's done an excellent job for not only the industry, but our county for several years. We're going to miss him, but I know we've got a good candidate coming up behind him with Deputy Earl Crow that's going to be taking that position potentially. So we've got good people in there. I know they'll get the results when they get them. Anything else from anybody?
Thank you for your hard work, Sheriff.
Well, it was definitely a group effort. The Sheriff's Office didn't do this by ourselves. I know I get to stand up here and take some credit, but we didn't do this by ourselves. It certainly was a group effort. The Marshal Service was key. Again, they took on the workload that was this manhunt. The FBI was certainly pulling every string they could behind the scenes, getting additional resources. If we hadn't got the additional funding for that third search, I get that we didn't get the results we wanted to, but we certainly did everything and was showing that we weren't willing to give up. We were going.
And that was Sheriff Mike Morris, Chelan County, announcing that the remains of Travis Decker have now been positively identified. The triple murderer who the Sheriff's Department says killed his 3 daughters all those weeks ago, now positively identified. He's deceased. The remaining questions for investigators now come from the coroner's office about when did Travis Decker die and how. You're watching live streaming coverage here on King 5 Plus. Joyce Taylor, by the way, you've been watching all along. She is off to prepare for the 5 p.m. news on King 5, and I'm King 5 investigator Chris Ingalls here with Alex McClune, who's covered this case extensively. Your thoughts?
We get the closure. Wenatchee gets the closure. We don't have to take this to trial. Can you imagine what that would have been like, especially on the heels of what happened in Idaho, the Brian Koberger case, the trauma there?
Which didn't go to trial.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I want to give you credit. You are the one who really told the world about Travis Decker and his life leading up to this. You reached out to that attorney. I am really curious, before you handed that off to me, what was it like making that phone call when this all started to make the news?
Yeah, we started digging through police records and came up with the name of Whitney, Travis Decker's wife's lawyer, who was very helpful in that she had been through this custody battle over the 3 children. You know, Whitney did not think that Travis would harm their 3 daughters. And Alex, we know now how true that wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. And so we learned a lot through that lawyer, Adriana Cozart, and you actually spoke to her.
Mm-hmm. And listening to the press conference with you, you were surprised to learn there was an expert involved. That really piqued your interest.
Yeah. I was going to say that there was a reference to a psychologist. I'm curious to hear more about that from the sheriff, because that psychologist may have put them in the mindset of Travis Decker, ultimately helping them to find those remains. But that's a question that is yet to be answered. So you're watching our streaming coverage here on King 5 Plus right now. But let's go to King 5 Television, where the 4 p.m. news is in progress, and you'll be able to watch continuing coverage there.
Being a hiker who looked like Decker. At the end of July, the Chelan County Sheriff had to scale back on that search because of the rising costs. The remains believed to be Decker were found near where the girls were found more than 4 months ago.
And again, that official confirmation of those remains being Decker's came in today. King 5 will continue our coverage of the murders of the Decker sisters. If you want to hear more of the press conference, you can watch it on our King 5 Plus app. Download the app on your TV and watch for free. Okay, let's turn our focus now to weather. Skies looking a bit clearer today. That air quality finally returning to normal. Let's bring in meteorologist Adam Claiborne to walk us through what we should expect this week, Adam.
Yeah, Jim, so we have this front that's going to be moving on through tonight, and that will add a little more of an extra to our westerly flow, which is going to help to blow more of this wildfire smoke haze off toward